If people really want to look at a major causative factor as it pertains to our negative condition being perpetuated in this country, particularly, you have to look at the area of psychiatry, mental health, and the prescription drugs. You're talking about over half of the population are on one or more forms of these drugs. Over 150 million people in America are on at least one form of psychotropic drug, which is a legal version, as you said, of cocaine, of all these other different things, methamphetamine, etc. I'll give you an example. Not only Thorazine, not only Paxil, not only Zymbalta, not only, Rexulti, which scientific name is Brexpiprazole. Tyrese, for example, when he was on Rexulti, that's when he had all of his fits. That's when he was crying hysterically and he was going to social media. Oh yeah. Rexulti, he had all that. And he said he had to call his therapist and get off of that because it was making him uncontrollably emotional. He noticed it. Here's the crazy part. All of those drugs, all of these Schedule II narcotics, all of those that are legal have every type of effect you can imagine. And then a whole list of ones that you can't imagine. They've estimated that over 50% of all people that commit mass shootings right now in America are on at least one or two psychotropic drugs. Oh yeah, at least one or two of those. They have even admitted that yes, we have cured 0 people. 0 cures. But you have all these people on these drugs. You're making over $3,000 every minute of every day. And you are helping 0 people while telling people they have a mental disease that you have yet to prove. This is how you have the biggest gangsters in the world, the biggest drug dealers in the world. Can't nobody on no corner in no hood push what psychiatric drugs have pushed, what pharmaceuticals have pushed, what that whole industry of so-called mental health has pushed. The drugs are what drive it. If there were no drugs, they'd have to actually focus on helping the people directly and addressing your mental issues, not from a chemical perspective, but from an actual emotional perspective, a traumatic perspective, a family historical
from a
perspective.
Society perspective,
a societal perspective. Yeah. The real causes, not saying, oh yeah, this drug is going to kill you. How can you give me a physical solution to a mental problem? The mind is not physical. So how the hell is this drug going to help me? And if it did help me, then that means I would no longer need the drug, which means you would lose money. So do you want to, it's a conflict of interest. So you sure? It's a game. You're talking about fraud at the highest level, bro. The area of psychiatry in particular, not just the field of mental health, because not all therapists, not all psychologists know, but in particular the area of psychiatry. And it's not all psychiatrists that know this, but that field is so heavily steeped in the system of eugenics, so heavily steeped in the history of dehumanization of human beings, to where when you finally learn about it, the very nature of it does not allow you to cure nor actually address actual root causes. Because if you do that, there will be no need, no requirement for the drug. And you will only be able to address the human being. Once you address them, they will no longer be a customer anymore.
And I have a second part I want to tie in regards to the criminal system, right? Mm-hmm. You just mentioned mass shooters on this. Yes. But I just think people in general, in regards to right, I understand people need to be penalized for the action. I want to be clear. I'm not saying people should do crazy stuff and not be penalized, but we have to reevaluate their state of mind at the time. Mm-hmm. If you are on, say, some of these prescription drugs or on other narcotics, but even I think that poverty, bro, and that stress puts people in a different mind space and they begin to behave in a manner that's not their highest form, I would say.
It's not their norm.
Right? So with that said, do we have to factor that more into the criminal system in regards to people's mind frame? I know people plead insanity. Some are insane. Mm-hmm. Some play games. Mm-hmm. But some people probably really are insane when they're behaving in that manner. They're not in the proper state of mind.
That point is a point that not too many people know how to break down, because it can be useful to people who do things intentionally, but then not useful to people who genuinely did not intentionally do anything at all. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the famous shooting Columbine. Eric Harris was on Luvox. He was having suicidal thoughts, homicidal tendencies. The Batman movie theater shooting, white dude with the orange hair, he was on multiple psychotropic drugs and had been under the care of a psychiatrist for over 10 years. The Las Vegas shooter, he was on multiple psychotropic drugs. You name it. The Virginia Tech shooter way back then, and a lot of them today. But here's the very quick key about all this. If they were black men, could they plead insanity? That's just the point. But if you're on one of these drugs, it is very well known that the common effects are suicidal thoughts, homicidal tendencies, where you're hearing voices telling you to do this. It's actually feeling it's a feeling of a good thought to want to die or to kill someone. That's what many of these drugs, or most, actually induce. It's a synthetic form of making you feel good about the idea of killing yourself and others. This is known in these drugs. So when they are perplexed by 22 veterans committing suicide every day, how are you perplexed when you have them on a concoction of these drugs that you give them that causes them to have these thoughts, suicidal thoughts, homicidal tendencies? How are you perplexed that you're giving people bags, brother, bags of drugs that cause them to have these issues? Children on Ritalin, which is cocaine. You talking about there's something wrong with little Billy. Yeah, he high. And you made him high. So have he bouncing off the walls doing all this craziness is because you gave him a drug when you should have addressed the problem that he had. Maybe it's because he just want a father. Maybe it's because he just needs somebody to guide him. He needs some love. He needs some instruction, some direction, some discipline. No, you gave him a damn drug because you trusted these folks who told you it's safe. And so they didn't know, some of them, most of them do, but the paycheck is too damn good. The industry is too big. And the only way it's going to stop is when somebody on the inside comes out and blows the whistle on it. Same way on every other thing. When it hits them personally, that's when they come out and start exposing it. But it's a very real thing, brother, that pleading insanity is definitely factual in many of the cases because these people were not in their right mind. So let's make this clear. We have to be, like you said, we have to be very specific. Put it in context.
But I think, bro, you work with gang members.
Yeah.
They're not in their right mind.
No, a lot of them are not.
It's the reality of it.
Yeah. It's a mixture of things.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
the trauma, it's the weed, it's the synthetic GMO medical cannabis that you think just got natural THC in it. Do you know how? Okay, all right. I gotta mention this here. The medical marijuana, brother, today is far from this natural weed that we knew in the 90s and the 80s and all the way before. No. What they got today is spliced with so many chemicals, spiked with so many chemicals that many of those chemicals in this medical marijuana are causing the psychotic breaks. A lot of these brothers are going crazy just off of that. And they're like, well, no, he didn't have nothing else. He wasn't on nothing.
THC too high. There's
Oh,
no
the
balance
THC
in
is
there.
extremely high.
What's it called? Psychosis or something?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's causing mental psychosis, straight mental breaks. These brothers they are off. Again, I'm specifying the medical marijuana. If your enemy approves something, you should not partake in it. Don't touch it.